COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to our member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, the Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Centers program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the C2, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre el liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo de lo público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral, que el cierre de brechas que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces, nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement "quédate en casa", que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
more than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to all member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, the Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Centers program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the CTOUR, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, private sector, and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect
Buenas tardes, español. Kern, can you let me know? Spanish, Kern.
¿Viste cómo se oye?
Yes, perfect. Vamos a segunda consola, por favor. Buenas tardes, buenas tardes. A ver. Estoy esperando la respuesta de webcast. Ahí viene. Perfecto. English booth, please.
Testing, testing. This is Sonia in English. Testing. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Second console, please. Hello, hello.
Landed. We've landed now. I know. Okay, well,
and
back on
we
Earth.
must
All
work
right.
together. The future of our region depends on it.
Portugués. Hold on, Kern. Portugués. Perfecto. ¿Está bien segunda o primera? Perfecto. Gracias. Francés, inglés. Muy bien. Segunda consola, por favor. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre el liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo del público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral, que el cierre de brechas que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement "quédate en casa", que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Hoy, esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser
Good
objetivos,
afternoon, ladies
analizar los
and
hechos,
gentlemen.
denunciar cuando veamos
Rogamos a las
oportunidad o
We ask that the
amenazas
delegations
libertades.
please
En esos
take
casos,
their-
no podemos ser neutrales.
With our session this afternoon.
Their places so we may resume our session of this afternoon. Señor presidente, con 20 delegaciones.
Chair, with 20 delegations, we do have quorum to continue.
Muchísimas gracias. Muy
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Thank you to the Assistant Secretary General. After that tribute to the French-speaking world, in which many of us took part, and after that wonderful music and messages, and above all, the amazing French cuisine, I think we are ready to recommence our regular session of the Permanent Council. And we're now on item 6 of our order of business, which is specifically dedicated to the Francophonie, which is celebrated through Resolution 3024. And so today we are celebrating the International Day of the Francophonie, which is celebrated every March 20th. That date reminds us of the signing of the Convention on the Promotion of the French Language and Francophonie, which aims to celebrate the French language as well as the cultural and linguistic diversity of countries that share French as a shared language, which are known as members of the Francophonie. Pursuant to the mandate of the GA and at the request of the delegations of Haiti and Canada, we are here to celebrate and recognize the power of the language and culture that bring people together, creating spaces for solidarity and shared understanding, and to reflect together on our shared future. To begin the celebration, I'd like to greet and give the floor to Professor Charles Moumouni, a professor from the University Laval in Quebec, who has broad experience in the Francophonie. Professor Moumouni, welcome to the Permanent Council of the OAS, and I give you the floor.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Chair of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Mesdames et Messieurs, thank you very much for the honor that you have bestowed upon me by inviting me to speak before this August Assembly. I feel even more honored as I am speaking in the presence of such eminent personalities from the Permanent Council. And in the time given to me, I'd like to discuss 3 items. First of all is just one observation, and the next 2 are recommendations. First of all, the French-speaking world is the cornerstone of inclusive and sustainable development. And speaking on behalf of the Francophonie, I can confirm one thing, and that is that I was associated as a partner in many different Francophonie bodies where I observed the Francophonie as it acted at the forefront of sustainable development, particularly in 2012, when we organized the Rio Plus 12 conference, and I was there representing Francophonie, where we worked at the conference, which, as you all know, brought us closer to the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda. But today, the Francophonie, the international Francophonie, as it is, particularly in Africa, faces some challenges. And right at the same time when we are celebrating the International Day of the Francophonie, there are some states that are withdrawing from the organization. Niger has notified us just this week of its intention to leave the Francophonie. And that is where my second point comes from. It is a recommendation. My recommendation is that the Francophonie of the Americas position itself as a leverage for cooperation between the OAS and Africa. There are 5 arguments on behalf of moving Africa and the OAS closer together. And the first argument is geopolitical in nature and geostrategic. Many African states face major difficulties when it comes to democracy, human rights, security, and the OAS has such expertise which might support these countries and present them with an alternative path, a new discourse, a renewal of this Francophonie in Africa. The second argument is cultural, historic. Many member states of the Organization of American States share a history. They share a culture with the African continent. That includes the Declaration on the Francophonie in the Americas, and there are many who share this history. If you know Brazil, with its 600,000 French speakers, Brazil has very close ties to Africa, particularly through Salvador Bahia, and with its capoeira, its samba music, we can see these ties. In other countries such as Costa Rica, Colombia, Argentina have a large population of Afro-descendants, which brings these two continents even closer together. And the OAS's celebration of the Inter-American Week for Afro-descendants is a recognition of this historic, social, cultural, and demographic reality. The third argument is that bringing the OAS and Africa closer together might allow member states to work hand in hand on environmental issues. And the Americas and Africa are the two lungs of our planet. The Amazon and the Congo forest massif and the Great Lakes basin. We have so much work left to do in this area, and both continents also share knowledge that is in danger when it comes to nature conservation. And this indigenous wisdom is something that we can leverage together. The fourth argument is economic. And I know that the OAS's main mission is not economic in nature, but that we must note that the Americas and Africa are the two continents that are richest in natural resources. Today, Africa continues to hold enormous resources, and we have so many needs when it comes to structural transformations in our economy. Africa has to emerge, and each member state has collectively and individually the ability to support Africa on this path toward emergence. And the last argument is linguistic diversity. The OAS is a model of linguistic diversity. We all know that in the Francophonie, we have 2,500 languages that coexist alongside French. The Americas and Africa have the majority of these languages, and together, the OAS and Africa are able to promote this diversity. My final point is also a recommendation. If you note that we would like to move these two continents closer together, then I would propose that Canada, Quebec, and Haiti be the bridges for this OAS Africa cooperation when it comes to inclusive, sustainable development. Archimede stated, "Give me a bridge and I will cross the entire world." And if the OAS works in Africa, its bridge might be Canada through Quebec, and it could be Haiti. Canada, through Quebec, as you all know, is the cradle of North American Francophonie. It is the place where so many institutions of Francophonie are headquartered. The University of the Francophonie, the Institute of Francophonie for Sustainable Development, and so many other bodies where Canada and Quebec have demonstrated through their resources and their trajectory what they're capable of. And Haiti has an important place in the Francophonie. Haiti has played a key role in positioning the French language in this concert of nations. In 1946, there was one path for French to be an official language at the United Nations, and Haiti was the one that gave its voice to this. It provided its capital symbolically as a position of the organization in this continent. And Africa can also mobilize to find a solution to the Haitian crisis. We understand that other than Canada and Haiti, there are other member states of the OAS. And I am particularly thinking of Dominica, St. Lucia, the Bahamas, Belize, Barbados, Antigua and Barbuda, Suriname, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis, and also Louisiana. They all have a very deep tie with the African continent. And I think that bringing the OAS and Africa closer together will contribute to making the spirit of the Francophonie a reality, as stated by President Léopold Lassembe-Port, the depth of the Francophonie that we see as part of this movement, which states, Professor, I apologize, we're out of time, to sow the seed of this energy around the world, around the continent, for all races. May they wake up to the warmth that they all share. May the dormant energy of the Francophonie in the Americas and that of Africa open their eyes to the warmth that they all share. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much, Professor Moumouni, for your participation in today's session and sharing your passionate experience with all of us. And now we will hear from Mr. Frans Volontaire, who's the current president of the International Center for Documentation and Information for Haiti, the Caribbean, and Afro-Canada. Mr. Volontaire has sent a video intervention. This week we are celebrating the Francophonie. The Francophonie brings us together, particularly when it comes to the role of Haiti in the Francophonie. And Haiti chose, since its independence in 1810, the French language as an official language, when the country was essentially French-speaking. And since 1947, with the new constitution, it became a country with two official languages, Creole and Haitian, and French. And there are many countries such as St. Lucia, Dominica, and others who speak Creole, and as well as Martinique, Guyana, and Guadeloupe. They share that culture and heritage. And they also share this with the United States because Louisiana has also, since American independence, seen a very strong Creole-speaking presence. And this is increasingly something that we are able to appreciate, even if the presence of Creole today is limited in Louisiana. But we see many Afro-descendant and Haitian-descendant individuals living in Louisiana today as well. And so French is an official language in Haiti. It's also the language of Haitian literature, an expression of French heritage. And I'm thinking about René Despetres, Franck Etienne. Mr. Despetres will be turning 100 years old next year. And also Franck Etienne, who is a Creole and French author. I'm also thinking of Canada with Anthony Phelps, who is one of the great Haitian poets who had a great role to play during the Duvalier dictatorship. I'm also thinking of Yannick Lines and Climas. Today, we are celebrating the French-speaking world, and Haiti continues to play a very important role here. And at the very heart of the OAS, we see this played out. Haiti was the one that insisted that the organization adopt French as an official language alongside English and French. That is, alongside English and Spanish. And during the Pan American treaty signed in Colombia, the OAS welcomed Haiti, and they were able to ensure that French became an official language alongside English and Spanish. So celebrating the Francophonie also means celebrating our relationship with our brotherly countries in Africa. And I believe that this is particularly the case with Senegal, which has Wolof alongside Haitian, alongside French. And the Francophonie brings us together, not only with France and Canada, particularly Quebec, Switzerland and Belgium, but also the Francophonie brings us together with the French language, which is an international language, and it brings us closer to Africa as well as international institutions where it continues to be an important official language. Celebrating the Francophonie also means celebrating a multicultural, diverse society, and that includes Haitian society, which is above all Creole speaking, but also French speaking. Giving up French would mean giving up a part of Haitian culture. And so in that sense, Haiti today is a country where French and Creole must live side by side. And we must appreciate the role that each of them play. Creole, of course, is a national language. And so I am celebrating with all of you this holiday dedicated to the Francophonie, the French-speaking world, the language that we all share.
We appreciate the permanent mission of Haiti to facilitate the participation of Mr. Volontaire. We would like to ask them to convey our thanks for his participation in the celebration. Now let's move on to hear His Excellency, Mr. Tani Mohamed Swelihi, Minister Delegate of Francophonie and International Collaboration of France, who has sent us his speech on video. Let's proceed to see this message. Secretariat, please go ahead. Ambassadors, dear colleagues, it's an honor to participate with you today on the Day of the Francophonie and the Organization of American States. I would like to commend you on this initiative since the last GA in Paraguay, and to have a Francophonie week in the OAS with a strong attachment to this language. French today is the fifth language most spoken in the world, with 321 million speakers spread over 5 continents in the Americas, from the north to the south. It's an alive and dynamic language which is spoken and taught in many schools. To learn French, well, this begins, and I started very early to learn French. is to open up an entire very rich cultural world based on literature, art, music, and the cinema. It's also to open up yourself to new economic and diplomatic opportunities because French, the fourth business language, plays a crucial role in international exchanges and cooperation between Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and the Americas. But the Francophonie is not just a language, it's also a space that's shared of values, solidarity, cultural and linguistic pillars, equality, and respect for fundamental rights. Today, the International Organization of Francophonie includes 93 states and governments which stand for democracy, education, culture, and sustainable development. The 19th Summit of the Francophonie in Villers-Cotterêts near and Paris has passed a milestone. The Declaration of Villers-Cotterêts was reinforced on the crucial idea of health and artificial intelligence as part of the topics. The IFO, the OAS, share these values in common, and it's natural for the both organizations to work more closely together to take on these challenges. Electoral observations, equality between men and women, and other issues are what we have in common. So this is a time, this celebration, to remember our solidarity with Haiti. France is fully engaged with the Haitian people and all of the other political stakeholders to quickly act to restore security there and to organize elections and to fight against corruption. The Francophonie is a strong link between the forces of cooperation and a driving force for dialogue. So we will continue to pull our efforts together so we can have a world which is more fair, more sure for future generations. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a la misión
We truly thank the Permanent Mission of France for facilitating participation of His Excellency, Mr. Thani Mohamed Salihi, Minister Delegate of Francophonie and International Collaboration of France. We'd like to convey our true thanks for his participation. Dear colleagues, I should like to now give the floor to those delegations who might like to make comments on this item on the agenda. Let us begin by giving the floor to St. Kitts and Nevis.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, panelists, dear colleagues, the delegation of St. Kitts and Nevis is honored to also join in the commemoration of Francophonie Week on the topic Francophonie for Inclusive and Sustainable Development. We would like to express our recognition to the illustrious panelists in the videos that we saw today and that looks at the role of Francophonie that moves towards camaraderie amongst the people of the Americas. Language is more than a means of communication. It's a witness of our common history, a vessel of culture, and a celebration of all human beings. In the Americas, our linguistic diversity reflects many different aspects of our evolution, an evolution which is shored up by cultural mixing and the tireless spirit of our people. At this time when we're celebrating this week, we would like to be able to express ourselves in different languages, not just our mother tongue. This is because of history, but it's also a symbol of our capacity to overcome the obstacles of the past and to forge a future for mutual understanding. For St. Kitts and Nevis, the French language is not just an old antique, but it's a part of our general heritage. The historic presence of French in our foundation is since the 1600s and has left an indelible mark in different names of places that we have and hold dearly till today. The capitals share this vestige of France, which is part of our identity. And this indelible footprint shows that the Francophonie in the Americas is not just limited to one place or one country, but it reigns throughout our entire region. It brings all of us together in visible as well as invisible ways. Whilst we celebrate the week of the Francophonie, we reaffirm our engagement to favor cultural and linguistic cooperation so that the essential elements of sustainable development can be met. Through our language, we reinforce our ties, and this will broaden our horizons, which will lead to the prosperity of our hemisphere. St. Kitts and Nevis applauds the celebration of this week through different activities which comprise the value and the celebrations of gastronomy and others, and commends the planners of this occasion. We would like to greet our brothers where French is the lingua franca, as well as all of those in the history like ours who were affected by the French language and culture. Our linguistic diversity continues to be alive and is the foundation for cooperation, understanding, and the progress shared in the Americas and well beyond. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you very much. St. Kitts and Nevis, Dominican Republic has the floor. Good afternoon. Our delegation truly appreciates the missions of Haiti and Canada for the initiative to include on the agenda for this meeting the topic of Francophonie, an instrument for integral and sustainable development. We would like to thank the panelists for their wonderful presentations. As an observer member of the International Organization of the Francophonie, the Dominican Republic joins in very enthusiastically to the celebration. The French language has also held a very important place amongst the languages in the world, and it has been a symbol of culture and diplomacy, a guiding principle of development and cultural and linguistic diversity, promoting as such cooperation in arenas such as education, economics, and politics. To celebrate Francophonie is to recognize the magnet that it has. It is an instrument for cooperation for peace and sustainable development. France, Latin America, and the Caribbean share historic and cultural ties that are of utmost importance. For its part, France and the French Revolution and the motto Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité inspired many of our own national heroes, those who spearheaded independence movements in the American nations. And when we speak about freedom, I would like to underscore that the 8th of March of 2021, we had a commemorative plaque for our sisters Mirabal. These girls were assassinated in the Trujillo regime. They are symbols of resilience and courage in our people. I should also like to mention Dominican authors who have been translated into French. For example, the national poet Pedro Mir and his poetry, Hay un país en el mundo, Mr. Alvarez with his work, Un homme de Salomé, Rita Hernandez with her novel Tentáculos, and Marcos Bayolo with his piece, La Apprentice. Mr. Chairman, in a world in crisis, the Francophonie is a unique place for multilateral cooperation which allows nations to align their decisions of the world, and it's a driving force for sustainable development and transformation. Currently, it's also a framework for cooperation in the quest for solutions for global challenges such as the digital divide, gender equality, and climate change, to encourage a celebration of events such as the Week of the Francophonie in the framework of cultural, academic, and diplomatic frameworks is a suitable place to strengthen historic ties, to share these successful stories, and to enrich our relations and our multilateral and bilateral relationships with a view to consolidate our dialogue is why we're here. Mr. Chairman, French, with its history and its first-class role, is a very valuable language, and it's very important in the international arena. Solidarity and shared values are expressed in its many different accents. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to the delegation of the Dominican Republic. Canada has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I am truly happy to be with you, with all of you, and to celebrate the week of the Francophonie in the OAS. It's an opportunity to underscore the diversity and the international cooperation with the Francophonie for more than a half century. With the French language and the diversity of the Francophonie is important, and this underscores the Francophonie countries over 5 different continents, including our country. There are many governments and many who are part of the Francophonie, and with which Canada has relationships, and where we are an observer in many different places: Ontario, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, Mexico, Uruguay, and Louisiana all have things in common with us. In the Americas, including the Caribbean, has French used daily, and this is the second language which is in many Latin American countries after English. In Canada, French is the official language alongside English, and Francophonie represents 20% of the Canadian population, with a million some odd in population. We have 85% of those in Quebec who speak French. 500,000 French speakers are throughout the entire country, in New Brunswick and other areas, and in Yukon, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia. Francophonie in Canada is also a support for all Canadians that speak French as their official language. 2 million speak French. Now, this great French-speaking community is an integral part of our national identity, and it contributes to our own character. We would like to thank the panelists who are here today for their representation and for their interesting talks, and to underscore Francophonie, which moves towards sharing what it takes for sustainable development. Francophonie is also an institutional anchor with French and moves towards political, economic, and cultural cooperation in 93 states in Francophonie countries. It's very important moving towards democracy, rights of people, peace, and sustainable development. At the heart of this, we move towards other actions, and also for peace missions, higher education, research, where we have development of economic cooperation for sustainable development. These facts allow us to enjoy Francophonie. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Gracias, Canadá.
Thank you very much, Canada. Delegation of Brazil has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First, I should like to thank the Permanent Mission of Haiti and in Canada, with the support of the French mission, for the initiative to celebrate Francophonie in the OAS. Brazil recognizes the importance of Francophonie in the context of the OAS and its fundamental role when it comes to languages in our hemisphere. Linguistic, cultural diversity in the Americas is one of the biggest achievements of the OAS, and in this mosaic, the French language has an historical, very important presence through Canada and Haiti. Haiti is the first nation of the Americas to have its independence after the United States, and has played a crucial role as representative of the Francophonie. Its resilience, its culture, its contributions to the OAS reflect the wealth of the Francophonie and the potential to strengthen solidarity amongst peoples. Canada, in turn, not only incorporates bilingualism as a fundamental principle, but is also a very important agent that promotes multilateralism throughout the hemisphere. We also speak about the active engagement of the French observer mission that supports the objectives of the OAS and recognizes our acknowledgement. This aligns with the spirit of inclusion and representativity in the OAS. We have to value full-fledged linguistic diversity in the region, and it's an essential part of the identity of many millions of citizens in the Americas. This is not just a formal principle, but it's an instrument for inclusion, dialogue, and strengthening our cooperation. As a Portuguese-speaking country, we are committed to the defense of multilingualism and the work in this organization, including through publication of all documents in all the official languages. In this spirit, I should like to say that we would like to ask for the inclusion of celebrating the International Day of the Portuguese language, normally observed on the 5th of May, and it should be on one of the regular sessions of the Permanent Council. Dialogue with the Francophonie and the support to multilingualism in the OAS is an expression of our commitment to diversity, solidarity, and building a future where all voices are heard and respected. Thank you very much. Merci. Obrigada. Thank you very much, Brazil. Delegation of Chile has the floor.
Muchas gracias, presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Also, we should like to thank the delegations of Haiti, Canada, for asking to include this item on the agenda today. The presentations that we have heard were very clear, and what Ms. Ambassador Lusti said a few minutes ago is that Francophonie has linguistic ties, historic ties, cultural ties that have a big presence in Chile, for example. There are very deep-seated experiences, so deep-rooted. And it's like bread that we break at the table together. And there's bread which in some areas of Chile we call it parraqueta, and in others we call it paraíso or pan francés or pan batido. So paparra, this is part of our history. This is also part of the Francophone ties that bind Chile together. In the 60s in France, besides being the first Latin American artist that had his work in one of the museums in Paris, Chile also has first compositions in French, Écoutez ma petite and others. And alongside these, the songs actually sing and smile. And look at how you've got the different rhythms that we prize. And then after that, in the 70s, maybe this requete pan francés inspired Isabel Parra, his daughter, exiled in France at the time because of the Chilean regime at the time, and because she was sent off. She appreciated French, and she reminds us that in the Tirantera, you could remember that this bread is going to be seen as farm bread when we are in exile. But this bread in exile is something that we remember throughout the Americas, thanks to what France and Haiti and Canada have done to make us part of the presence, and particularly remembering Francophonie in Chile. And for Chile, Mr. Chairman, it's really of utmost importance to celebrate this occasion, because since the 5th of October last year, in the 9th summit of the International Summit of the Francophonie, our country was an observer member of this organization. That's when we became an observer member, and that's why we're very happy today at this time that brings us together. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Chile. Costa Rica has the floor. Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Good afternoon. We thank the Permanent Mission of Haiti and Canada for their initiative to include on the agenda a celebration of the Francophonie here at the OAS. In this time that we celebrate Francophonie, which is celebrated every March, Costa Rica, as an observer nation of the Francophonie organization, tells us that we have common values as to linguistic diversity, cooperation, and respect for cultural diversity, democracy, and human rights, peace, and sustainable development. Thanks to this participation, our country has joined in with the Francophonie community, and we have cooperation programs in education, sustainable development, and human rights. French plays a very important role in Costa Rica, both in the educational realm, the diplomatic arena, as well as the cultural sphere, as a language of diplomacy and in international organizations. French projects the country and represents multilateralism and favors a coming together of all French-speaking countries. French is the second most taught language after English. It is an opportunity for the professionals and academia in Costa Rica. The ties of Costa Rica with the French language is reflected also in the emblematic institutions such as in the Alliance Française, and it plays a key role in teaching and promoting French culture in the country. In the educational area, in 2024, the Ministry of Public Education went through a very important time by receiving different aspects for education, and in the National University for Francophonie, we facilitated academic ties. In this context, then, Costa Rica participated in very important events. The last time around for Francophonie, Ambassador Solano underscored the importance of French as a cornerstone for development, as well as the need to have cooperation in academia, in governments, in the private sector, and in opening up new opportunities for professionals, for all populations, particularly young people. The second event in November 2004, our country participated in the regional Francophonie initiative organized in Quebec in Canada by the OIF. This participation reaffirms the country's engagement in favor of multilingualism as a development tool. We reaffirm as such then our engagement to promote French and values of the Francophonie in the hemisphere. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Costa Rica. Argentina has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We truly appreciate inclusion of this item on the agenda today. We also appreciate the missions of Haiti and Canada for requesting that it be put on the agenda, as well as the presenters for all of their comments and presentations made. Argentina is an observer member of the International Organization for Francophonie since 2016, and that's why it's part of the group of friends of the Francophonie here at the OAS, and joins in this celebration and all the activities that are being had. Since 2012, member countries of the International Organization of Francophonie represented in Argentina have got together with the Argentine French Institute and the Alliance Française in Buenos Aires to celebrate Francophonie with various cultural events. Rayuela, this work by Mr. Julio Cortázar, that links Paris and Buenos Aires, could be considered a symbol of the strong existent ties between the French culture and the Latin American culture. French is an official language of the OAS alongside Portuguese, Spanish, and English, and it's one of the 4 official languages and contributes to keeping alive the cultural, linguistic diversity of our hemisphere. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Argentina. Honduras has the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Well, I don't have anything written, so I would just like to congratulate everybody for the Francophonie and these events that have been carried out here at the Organization of American States. For example, yesterday we had this conference on Simón Bolívar and France, and I'm going to underscore the participation of Canada, France, and Haiti, and of course, Carlos Gueman, the Vice Minister of Panama. Carlos Guevara Man knew how to tell the story with a sense of humor, because we fell in love with him when we thanked Panama for everything that he's done. And also we have a presentation which was marvelous. France was responsible for that, but France has influenced everything in the field of literature in my country. Our main poets were very studious, and they were inspired by Rimbaud, Mr. Paleri, Bayerman, and I'm not going to mention all the names, but Flaubert, Victor Hugo, and many others, and the pilot Antonio Sainz, that if you don't know who he is, he's the author of this wonderful El Príncipe, the Little Prince. Now, Balzac, and I read all of his work, and Guy de Maupassant. So there are many more. I don't really have time to mention all the different names because you said we had to save some time because it's a very long day, Mr. Chairman. That's what you told me. So I'd also like to congratulate Ambassador Mayerin Cordero for what she did, and she reminded me of the grand national poet of the Dominican Republic, Don Pedro Miro. And modesty apart, he received me many times in his home in Santo Domingo, and he has this universal, wonderful poem. And he said to me, when all of these things didn't exist and all of this technology and TV and all of that, the only reference that we had out there was Haiti, because it was a country that had freed itself from erstwhile yokes, and it has a border with the Dominican Republic. So he told me that the only thing that we had was, that was the only country in the world, that was the international reference for the Dominican Republic. And I'm really very happy that our Ambassador Mayerlin has mentioned this as a translation into French. I have a copy in Spanish, but I'm not going to loan it out. But thank you very much for the invitation to speak.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Haiti is recognized. Chair, thank you for including this item, which is crucially important to my delegation during today's session. And it was a delight to take the floor during these circumstances. And I salute the decision of the GA Resolution 3024, which dedicated a week in March each year to celebrating the Francophonie. And this invites member states and permanent observers who wish to support and take part in, as their resources allow, as we have done this week, activities to promote better understanding of cultural diversity and values in the Francophone community of the Americas. In this context, the permanent mission of Haiti and Canada, through the OAS, with participation from the permanent missions of France and Panama, have created a program for celebrating the International Week of Francophonie this year, based on the topic Francophonie, inclusive development and sustainable development. Francophonie is a linguistic space that is exploding, and according to some projections, there will be 700 million Francophone people by 2050 around the world. And Haiti values its partnership in this dynamic space, and Haiti has a very special relationship with our International Organization of the Francophonie, of which it has been a member since its very creation. Please allow me to also remind you of the Caribbean region and the linguistic diversity of the region, and Haiti has been a member of the Francophonie Week. And one of the oldest members of one of the oldest Alliances Françaises was created in southwest Haiti, and we participate widely in French culture and Francophonie culture in Haiti and elsewhere. We spend 15 days a month working with Haitian universities and ministries to participate actively in these activities. And we promote and support any initiative aimed at bringing together the French language as well as promoting French-speaking culture. Please allow me to note that Haiti played an important role in designating French as a working language at many international forums, including CARICOM and the UN. And our history once again shows our dedication to promoting cultural and linguistic diversity as well as French-speaking culture around the world. Chair, As you all know, Haiti is currently facing a very serious security crisis caused by armed gangs that have attacked our population. And as we are celebrating this week in our organization, one of the values of which is education, thousands of Haitian families and children are unable to go to school or the university due to the security crisis that has beset the country, particularly in the capital, which, according to some estimates, is over 80% controlled by criminal gangs. And the security crisis has prevented schools from opening in much of our country and a high number of IDPs. And we continue to ask for support from our international partners to provide resources for definitive solutions to this very serious crisis and to commit us to the path toward development. Access to sustainable development for the LDCs in our region is a challenge for all of us and for the international community as a whole. We have all an interest in attacking poverty and chronic inequalities, which are the very root of these irregular migration flows and other crises. And, Chair, without a doubt, Haiti is an example of cultural diversity and a country that has provided many important figures of the Francophonie, including Alexandre Dumas and the former governor of Canada, Michael Jean, who was the Secretary General of the International Organization of the Francophonie. And this line of solidarity in our community has guided us to supporting states and governments, particularly those which, like Haiti, have faced this situation of vulnerability. And my delegation fully supports the Francophone approach to mutual support and dialogue, because multilateral cooperation is sine qua non in order to securing the most vulnerable countries of the region. And to conclude, I reiterate Haiti's commitment to the Francophonie and its values, which we all share. Have an excellent celebration of the Francophonie. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ambassador. Panama is recognized.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to begin by thanking Professor Moumouni from Canada, Professor Voltaire from Haiti, and Your Excellency Suili, Minister Delegate for the Francophonie and International Collaboration, Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of France, and we have taken due note of these statements. It's an honor to speak before all of you in this very important celebration of the Week of Francophonie, an event which allows us to recognize and value the rich linguistic and cultural heritage that French has provided our hemisphere. Francophonie represents much more than a shared language, as we were discussing yesterday with the distinguished ambassador from France. It symbolizes a space for cultural diversity, international cooperation, and the promotion of values such as peace, democracy, and human rights. In the Americas, the presence of the Francophonie has had a significant contribution to our cultural heritage that we all share. Today, I would like to underscore in particular the contribution of Panama against this backdrop. Though Panama is not traditionally considered a Francophone country, our relationship with French culture and the French language has very deep historical roots, which have enriched our national identity. French influence in Panama began to increase notably with the bold French-Canada French project to create a canal inspired by the Suez Canal. And though it was not fully completed under French direction, it left an unforgettable mark on our society. And thousands of French workers began to work on the isthmus, contributing their technical know-how, values, and culture. French entrepreneurship led to incredible cultural, architectural, and culinary feats in Panama. The French neighborhood in Panama City and French cemeteries are witnesses to this shared culture. In education, Panama has shown its ongoing commitment to promoting the French language, and the Alliance Française was founded decades ago in Panama, and it has been a center for French culture and language. Many educational institutions in Panama include French in their curriculum, training the future generations to appreciate linguistic and cultural diversity. This is part of our French department, which is part of the Humanities Department at Panama University. which for many decades has provided information and training for many professionals. Diplomatically, we have maintained strong relationships with French-speaking countries and taken part actively in international fora where the Francophonie is present. Our strategic position as a bridge between cultures makes us a natural ally for initiatives that seek to promote intercultural dialogue. Trade between French-speaking countries and Panama has been an important pillar in this relationship, and the exchange of goods and services has also facilitated cultural exchange, which enriches everyone involved. Dear colleagues, representatives, celebrating the Francophonie reminds us of the importance of building bridges between cultures in a world where oases. Sometimes we see division growing, but a language that we share like French is a platform for mutual understanding and cooperation. I would like to give very special thanks to my colleague from Honduras. You just mentioned the event that we attended yesterday with several other delegations, including Haiti, France, and Canada. Here with the presence of the Vice Minister, Carlos Berman, a specialist in historic relationships between our country and France. And this has also as the tradition of Liberator Simon Bolivar in 1826, where we celebrated this Congress where we saw the beginning of multilateralism. This is extremely important as our minister took part in the Francophonie Week, echoing what Panama would like to project in the next year, and we will be then hosting the OAS-GA. And I'd like to extend the invitation to all member states of the OAS to continue forging linguistic and cultural ties, promoting the learning of French and other languages, and to appreciate the contributions of other nations such as Panama to our very rich cultural mosaic in the Americas. May this week be an opportunity to reiterate our commitment to cultural and linguistic diversity as a source of strength for our hemisphere. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, embajadora.
Thank you, Ambassador. And I give the floor to the Permanent Observer of France. Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, dear ambassadors, colleagues, please allow me, first of all, to salute including this item on the order of business and celebrating the International Day of the Francophonie at the OAS HQ. I would also like to thank the three speakers for their presentations, which shed light on the diversity and strength of the French language. We are delighted with celebrating the first week of the Francophonie, and French is a historic language of diplomacy, as also a historic language of work. And to facilitate this bridge between culture, I had the pleasure to announce that French courses will be provided in the coming weeks to diplomats from OAS accredited missions as well as teams from the General Secretariat. And enrollment will be open very soon, and we will have several dozens of hours of French training thanks to our partnership with the Alliance Française in Washington, D.C. Also, thank you to the International Organization of the Francophonie, notably its Office for Presentation in Quebec, for allowing us to carry out these courses. We are very enthusiastic to see you all participate. The French mission to the OAS also works within the organization to better disseminate French in the Americas. Dear colleagues, now a moment on the work that you see in your spaces, in your seats today, and this is an exhibit on transatlantic encounters between Latin American artists in Paris in 1810, and it pays tribute to hundreds of Latin American artists who traveled to Paris between the 20s to the 70s. It is essential for us that this catalog be translated in all 4 official languages of the OAS, as multilingualism is the foundation of our exchanges, and the Francophonie defends linguistic diversity in international organizations for over 15 years now. Because we are sure that it is essential for democratic debates and being able to follow discussions and understanding decisions that affect us, respecting multilingualism is part of good governance in international relations and sine qua non to multilateralism. Among others, it is for the good of the language that we recognize the diversity of people and culture in our organization, as it brings together all countries of the French-speaking world, and the language is a shared necessity for dialogue and understanding. Today, as we celebrate the Francophonie, I would also like to take advantage of the opportunity to pay tribute to the interpreters who are with us every week and allow us to understand one another in all of 4 official languages and take part in this multilingualism as well. Chair, dear colleagues, as the minister stated this morning, the Francophonie is a powerful symbol of unity in diversity, solidarity in cooperation, but also a driver of democratic values. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to the Permanent Observer Mission of France and its permanent representative. Thank you once again for the presentations of our guests and those who intervened in this celebration particular, and we have taken due note in the council and they will be included in the minutes from today's session. We invite the delegations to continue participating in activities to commemorate this very important week of the Francophonie in the OAS, including, of course, the activities that are still ahead and those that already took place. Dear colleagues, moving on to the next item in the order of business, we will address consideration of 2 documents and 1 presentation submitted by the CAP. Based on the request from the chair of the CAP and distributed as document CP/INF.1052/25, I suggest that the Permanent Council first, approve the proposed terms of reference for the webmaster position for the OAS contained in document CP/CAP-4040/25 Rev 1. I would like to ask the delegations if they have any observations. I see no request for the floor. It is hereby approved. Second, that I would like to ask if the Permanent Council can approve the draft response to recommendations from the Auditing Committee contained in document CP/CAP-4056/25. If there are no observations or requests for the floor, it is hereby approved. Distinguished colleagues, in light of the provisions of Article 130 of the General Standards for Operations of the General Secretariat, and based on the competency granted to the CAP pursuant to Article 19 of the Rules of Procedure, I requested that the chair of the CAP hold the pertinent consultations with members of that committee regarding the intention to nominate a general inspector by the General Secretariat in line with the note distributed to permanent missions on March 6th last as document CP/INF.1049/1/25. In response to that request and pursuant to the note from the Vice Chair of the CAP distributed as document CP and INF 1052/25, the CAP held a meeting on March 12th where member states reached an agreement to present a recommendation to this Permanent Council. Therefore, I would like to give the floor to the permanent representative of Chile and chair of the CAP, Ambassador Sebastián Kraljevic, to present the results of the consultations and the corresponding recommendation. Ambassador Kraljevic, I give you the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. Assistant Secretary General, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, the CAP received the chair of the Permanent Council to carry out the discussions on nominating an Inspector General from the General Secretariat. The consultations were held at a formal session of the CAP on March 12th, and we reached an agreement submitted to the chair of this council, CP/INF 10-502/25, where, I quote, "We requested that the Commission in this session reach a general agreement and recommend that the Permanent Council submit the will of the Commission that the consideration of that nomination be proposed for the be delayed until the beginning of the mandate of the new Secretary General, and so that will begin the last phase for the nomination phase in line with Article 153 of the General Standards, and that is the nomination. I'm citing the article now. In consultation with the Permanent Council and the support of the Auditing Committee. And I close, end quote. And the session will be carried out in light of Articles 1 through 6. That is the recommendation of the CAP to the Council, and I would like to thank all of the delegations that took part in the deliberation process for this recommendation. And we would like to particularly note the delegation of Antigua and Barbuda and the entire Council in this endeavor. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Ambassador Kraljevic, for your presentation. And through you, we would like to express our thanks to all members of the CAP for their timely, diligent work on this initiative as the chair of the Permanent Council. I'd like to ask the delegations if there's any agreement in receiving the recommendation drafted by the CAP with regard to the intention of the nomination of the Inspector General by the Secretary General. If there are no observations or requests for the floor, it is hereby agreed. And I will formally forward to the Secretary General the recommendation that we just agreed on. Dear colleagues, we have now concluded with the order of business for today's session. I'd like to give the floor to delegations that want to speak to any other items of business that are informative in nature. El Salvador is recognized. Ambassador. Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, we would like to share with the Permanent Council that the Legislative Assembly of El Salvador on the 23rd of March 2024 as the National Day for Pacamara coffee as a tribute to this type of coffee native to El Salvador. We're celebrating for the second time, and as part of our strategy, we in March will be holding various coffee tasting activities as we did this morning outside of the Permanent Council, and we will be doing the same in other countries such as Saudi Arabia, Norway, England, Ecuador, and other countries of the region, promoting and highlighting the excellence of our coffee, which is an exotic type developed in El Salvador between two different species of coffee known for its strong fruity and floral notes. And this variety has notes of cinnamon created by artisans in El Salvador, and it's distinguished by its brilliant, robust taste and tropical flavors such as papaya, passion fruit, and pineapple. It is a source of national pride and part of our identity. As part of that recognition of our national drinks excellence worldwide, we would like to share a brief video on Salvadoran coffee. And also, thank you very much for the AMA Museum for your cooperation in this very important event for my country. Thank you.
En El Salvador.
In El Salvador, we make one of the best coffees of the world, and we are very proud of our producers who produce high-quality, exceptional coffee. This is a pillar of agriculture production in our country and of great importance for our farmers. From now on, Salvadoran coffee has its own brand to share our unique values of quality and to project the image of our coffee on international markets. El Salvador coffee. Thank you very much to the Salvadoran delegation. Haiti is recognized. Good afternoon once again. The Permanent Mission of Haiti through the OAS is honored to invite you all to a conference followed by a signature in the framework of celebrating this week of Francophonie. It will be held on Friday, March 21st at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. We will hold two conferences, including Ambassador Vinvait Arpes, who will speak about Haiti and the French-speaking world, and Ambassador Jean-Joseph Pierre, who will speak about Blackness and the Francophonie. Thank you very much. You're all invited.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Our distinguished Assistant Secretary General, Nestor Mendez, is recognized for an important announcement.
Mr. Chairman, I am pleased to remind delegations that next week we will be celebrating the 7th Inter-American Week for Afro-Descendants in the Americas. On Monday, 2 p.m. in the Hall of the Americas, we will be doing the formal launching. We want to thank all delegations who have cooperated with us, who have supported us. We're hoping for a celebration that would be in accordance with the importance of this week. And I also just want to mention very quickly, this will be the last time in my present post that my office gets to coordinate and organize these activities. So for us, it's very important. We hope we can count with your presence. That's Monday, the opening ceremony at 2 p.m. in the Hall of the Americas, followed by a small reception. And then on Tuesday, we have this special session of the Permanent Council to celebrate the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade. Again, we want to thank all of those delegations that have proposed panelists and have otherwise contributed to the holding of all of these commemorations. And our final public activity on our webinar on Friday at 2 p.m., hosted by the Inter-American Network of High Authorities on Policies for Afro-Descendant Populations, also known as REAFRO, who in collaboration with the Secretariat for Access to Rights and Equity will host a webinar on the topic Afro-Descendant Women in the Americas, Resilient and Diverse. So we encourage everybody to please come and attend, participate, support this important marking in the institutional calendar. And if it's possible for you, we also encourage you to wear apparel and colors that are commemorative or linked to the celebration of this important week. Thank you, Chairman.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much for that important announcement. Dear colleagues, we have concluded this last regular period of the quarter as the chair of the Permanent Council, and I'd like to take a brief moment to reflect on the goals that we have achieved together and express my sincere thanks for your cooperation, commitment, and support from each and every one of you. Since January 1st, we have faced some of the most significant challenges for our region, always with a staunch focus on defending human rights, consolidating democracy, and promoting hemispheric solidarity, while always respecting the standards and principles that govern the organization, and particularly the Permanent Council as a fundamental body of the OAS. One of the most relevant tasks of this period has been preparing and holding the 56th special period of sessions of the GA, in which, by acclamation, we elected our next Secretary General, Albert Ramdin. Additionally, we have moved forward substantially in preparing for the special session to be held on May 5th next, with the aim of electing the person who will hold the very important position of Assistant Secretary General. In this sense, we have successfully held a special session of the Permanent Council to present candidates for the Secretary General of the OAS, and we have participated with the chair in civil society dialogue on February 11th. Another significant achievement has been adopting special measures for maintaining the operations and human resources of the OAS. in order to overcome an unplanned crisis in the organization, and this has been possible thanks to the arduous work of the CAP, whose contributions have been fundamental to ensuring continuity in our activities, always in strict adherence to the procedures and internal standards of the OAS. The Permanent Council also recognizes the chair of the CAP for his work along these lines. In collaboration with the delegations of Antigua and Barbuda and Brazil, under this chairmanship, we have been able to reactivate the General Commission of the Permanent Council, to which we have entrusted the periodic examination of our procedures and working methods, and we are organizing our next meeting next week after a long period of over 5 years without any activity, with the aim of continuing to strengthen our institutional work and full respect for the standards that guide our actions. Thank you to all delegations for your support. We have been able to implement the working plan proposed at the beginning of the quarter, always with the aim of consolidating this Permanent Council as an effective forum for political dialogue and hemispheric cooperation. This has been possible thanks to strong determination to achieve our objectives, always guided by the principle of transparency and promoting an environment of respect and constructive dialogue between all delegations, including in the face of the challenges we faced during the first regular period of sessions on January 15th. We have seen this as a valuable experience in our organization and our governing bodies, and ensuring legality and respect among ourselves as a foundation of healthy understanding between our states that goes beyond our ideological and specific differences. Similarly, we have commemorated important milestones in the inter-American system, and we've observed the International Day of Women, reiterating our commitment to protecting the rights of all persons without any distinction or discrimination. Similarly, we have made great strides in fighting racial inequality, and on the 25th of March, next we will be holding a special session to commemorate the International Day of Remembrance of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. We have held important special sessions pursuant to mandates and addressed the implementation of the Inter-American Democratic Charter and its challenges. Similarly, we have successfully celebrated the special session to commemorate the 55th anniversary of the first specialized Inter-American Conference on International Private Law, among other important activities. We are leaving our legacy with delegations of Antigua, Barbuda, and Brazil, important activities in the Permanent Council, which we hope will be broadly debated and considered in the General Committee and hopefully adopted by consensus with participation from all member states. As I conclude my mandate as chair, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude to the member states for their dedication, commitment, and collaboration. It has been an honor and a privilege to serve in this role. I fully trust that the OAS will continue to promote peace, democracy, and human rights in our continent, always within the framework of the standards that govern our OAS. I'd like to take this opportunity also to wish most success to Ambassador Benoni Belli, the distinguished colleague and dear friend, permanent representative of Brazil, who will be assuming the chairmanship of the Permanent Council on April 1st at midnight. I am certain that under his leadership, the Council will continue to be a space for constructive dialogue and hemispheric cooperation. And Ambassador, you can always count on my support and that of my delegation for whatever you need. This will begin at 9 a.m. next Wednesday, April 2nd, at the Gallery of the Heroines and Heroes. Also, special thanks to the permanent observers, whose valuable participation and recent dialogue between member states and observers has strengthened our collective determination to facing the challenges faced by our region, always while respecting the established procedures. Also, thank you to my small and valuable team from the Permanent Mission of Bolivia, Mari Sorenia, Angelica Jocha, and Lucia Mamanis, without whose efforts it would not have been possible to carry out this task. And finally, my sincere gratitude to the Secretary General and particularly the Assistant Secretary General for their valuable team and their tireless work and dedication. We have concluded, and for a few more days we will be guided by our duty Thank you very much. The session is concluded.